Today is a great, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a Finland day. 25 weird things about life in Finland. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
Weird at first, but now I love it. Amazing, but was very strange when I first came here. It's like, what? So you came here because you want to hear some weird things about living in Finland? Interesting.
Yeah. I do.
I'll give them to you, but first, a few disclaimers. Number one, when I say weird, I just mean different. Different doesn't mean bad or good. For example, in England, I think it's weird that you drive on the left side of the street. It's just different. So it's
not weird, it's normal. Driving on the left is the right side to drive.
Consider the word weird meaning different in this video. Number two disclaimer. Keep in mind that I am just a girl from Georgia, USA, who has lived one life there and had experiences there. And now I'm living in the country of Finland and have my own experiences here. So these things that are weird to me are just my personal opinions. And you might not think they're weird at all. So if that's okay with you, keep watching this video. So I'm gonna break down these 20 plus weird things about life in Finland into 5 different categories. One category are the social aspects. Another is about home life, another about nature, then food, and then just being out and about at stores or driving, for example. But let's get into the 20-ish weird things about living in Finland. By the way, my name is Jade, or Jade, and I'm an American who's been living in Finland for 5 years.
Wow,
Make sure to follow along to see more about my life in Finland. Let's talk about the social aspects. Number one, it's so quiet here. It's like the default. It's
especially for an American, because Americans are very loud. They like to talk a lot. So I can imagine like silence like that would be really annoying for an American.
Just weird how quiet it is in different places in Finland. You can be in a mall and it's very quiet. You can be on a bus and it's very quiet, and that's just normal here. But coming from Atlanta, Georgia, or places in the US, it is quite loud by default. So that was weird to me. Along with that comes the second weird thing, is that there's not really any small talk with strangers in general. Of course, some people will talk to strangers and make conversation, but it's not a given. You should.
Which is, it's fine. It is fine. I feel like Americans get anxious about people not talking to each other, but it's like, what are you talking about? If you don't know somebody, what do we have to talk about? Do you know what I mean? Like, Americans love small talk. How's the weather today? How are you? Oh my God, did you see the TV last night? And blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, I don't know you, first of all. And like, why are we, why? Like, this is just, like, it's not a serious conversation. Not that it needs to be serious, but it needs to have some substance. Whereas I feel like Americans are very surface level. I've said this many times, but I really do believe that Americans are kind of surface level with their conversation, and that's normal for them. But for Europeans, where it's a bit like, you know, do we need to have this conversation? Do we need to have it? I mean, if I get to know you and I like you and we have something to talk about, then we'll have a chat. But if not, then I don't really want to speak to a stranger. And I get it. I get it, Finland. Honestly, I get it.
You never expect that just because you're standing to someone on an elevator, you'll start talking with them about their day. Something else that's kind of weird about the social aspects is that you might not know your neighbors' names or people you've been talking to for a long time. So a lot of times at stores, even, people don't really wear name tags with their names on it. And also, you might just not know someone's name, even though you talk to them daily, you go to the same gym or something like that. So that was kind of funny and weird too. But these antisocial qualities kind of start to dwindle when the weather gets warm outside. It's so funny seeing people come alive in the summertime, come alive when it starts to turn into spring. And that's a weird but funny thing that the people...
It's not weird. It's when you're from a colder climate. She's from Georgia, so she's from a warm part of America. When you're from a colder climate, like, people just don't want to hang around and talk when it's grey weather, there's no sun, it's cold. It's just kind of like, we just kind of grunt at each other like, Little grunt. That's all we do. We don't need to have a conversation. But when the sun comes out, I'm telling you, yeah, Europe Northern Europe and parts of Western Europe, where it's very cold in the winter, summer is amazing. There's no better place to be than Europe in the summer, because the way people's energy changes and the way people are happy is and at this time of year as well, now it's September, end of September going into October, the weather's starting to change. It's starting to get a lot more cool. People's personalities start to change. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. In England, it's starting to get a bit colder now. Not cold, but it's cooling down. The summer weather's going. We're in autumn now, so the temperatures are more like 10 degrees Celsius. We're getting to single digits, and people are not as happy as they were a month ago. I don't know how you feel in Finland. I'm sure you guys witness this, but we're very used to this in Europe, that we have differing moods depending on the weather. Is what it is.
Will kind of change during the seasons. So now on to house things. And this is the fifth weird thing, is how in a lot of households, there are mooming products, like this mooming mug I have. And I love these now, but the weird thing about it is, if I were to compare this to the US, I would consider these Disney characters. And that's not something just everyone has in their house. But here in Finland, it seems like almost everyone would have at least one thing that's mooming, whether it's a cup or a book or a towel. This little girl and guy are quite popular here. And it's like a household item. Next weird thing, when you walk into a Finnish house, there's often two doors. So not like in the US where we have a screen door and the proper door, but here there's one door you walk in and then you're in a room, and then a second door. And I'm not actually sure what it's for, but it's quite common in all houses that there's this little etten and this little room.
Little room door. I don't find that strange, because I grew up in a house where we have the same thing. We used to have what do you call them? A porch, a very, very small porch. And we got it sealed up into a door. So when you step in, you take your shoes off and then you step in through another door. So yeah, I grew up in a house that had a Finnish door. Yeah, that's very normal for me. It's great because you can take your shoes off in there and then step through the other door without your shoes on. It's perfect. Very normal for me.
Before you actually get into the house. Also, centralized air conditioning and heating isn't really a thing in Finland, and that's kind of weird. For example, these heaters that are lined up with the window, and that's how the home stays warm in the winter. And that's also why it's so hot in the summer, because our walls and windows are very good for insulating and keeping the heat in. But in the summer when it's hot, it also keeps the heat in.
Same as the UK, because of the UK used to be a lot colder. In fact, the UK used to be a lot like probably the temperature the Scandinavian and Nordic countries are today. The UK used to be that 20, 30, 40 years ago. But the UK has warmed up as everywhere else in the world. So our summers are getting extremely hot. But these houses were built from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, even some Victorian homes where the insulation, the walls are so thick that all the heat is just trapped in there. We do not have houses that are built for warm weather. But the issue is it's getting warmer. So when it's summertime, it's horrible. And you know where I found it the worst? London, the south of England, because it's hotter in the south of England, clearly, than the north of England, where I'm from. And I was living in the south of England, in London, a couple of years ago. The summers were so bad, I had to travel. It was only 250 miles away from home. And I traveled back home to escape the heat. And it was actually better in the north of England by at least 4 or 5 degrees. But it was just too hot, way too hot in the houses in London. London doesn't ever get snow. Where I'm from hardly gets snow now. It's very rare. But London hasn't had snow in London for at least 10 years now. I don't think it snowed in London properly for like 10 years. Like, it's, yeah, global warming.
But yeah, it's not super common to have
Don't know what it's like in Finland, but let me know in the comment section.
like air conditioning in the whole house, and that was a little weird when I came. Showers in Finland, I guess they're kind of practical, but a little bit weird how it's not like a raised shower or like a bathtub, it's just the whole bathroom floor. So when you shower, water kind of just goes everywhere, and you use this thing called, actually I don't know what it's called in Finnish or really in English, but I'll call it a squeegee.
I have one of those, a squeegee. I have one of those as well. We do use it to clean the shower glass, but they have these rooms in Asia, and they call them wet rooms. It's a wet room. It's not really a shower. It's not cordoned off. It's a wet room. I don't really like wet rooms, guys. I don't, because I don't like the entire bathroom being wet. What do you guys think? Currently, where I'm at here today, where I'm staying, it's a wet room. It's just like that, an entire room. But I'm not a big fan of them because everything gets wet. Don't like it.
That you like dry the floor with. Some people love having that kind of bathroom where it's all one floor, the shower is not really separate, but it's quite weird to me. Another weird thing about the homes are like having brand names in the house. So I was trying to compare it to the US, thinking, okay, what's some brand names that people even have in their house? And I couldn't really think of any brands that people have in their house. But here in Finland, I feel like the brands are super strong. Like you might have Iittala dishware, or you might have Finlays and cloths, or you might have Moomin Arabia cups. But yeah, I feel like in US, there wasn't any specific brand that came to mind for like glassware or tablecloths or...
Is it that malfunction because she was speaking high pitch? Is she supposed to be speaking high pitch? I don't know what happened there.
Bedding, I don't know. So kind of weird that the brands are so strong here for home items.
Sorry,
so that's about maybe 9 or so weird things down. But let's move on to nature things. A lot of these weird things about nature are actually some of my favorite things now. And one of the weird things is how often and normal it is just to go to the forest. So the forest is somewhere you kind of just go to relax, get a breath. It's somewhere you walk through to get to the store sometimes or your school. And it's also someplace I
bet your air is so crisp.
Just invite friends to hang out like, hey, want to go for a walk through the forest? Which is something I would have done in the US, like just a casual forest in the neighborhood. We're kind of taught that the forests are a scary place and that's where the scary people live. Weird at first, but now I love it, how much the forest is a part of daily life. Also, in the forest, you can forage and eat things. So there's this thing called every man's rights, and it applies to a lot of different things in the forest that kind of, regardless of where it is, besides private property, but regardless of where it is in the free space in the forest, you can eat berries and mushrooms and pick things, and I think that's really cool. That's and weird to think that you're just getting something from nature and being able to eat it.
But in the UK, it's kind of like we don't really have like every man's right to go. I think it's quite similar. I think it's just we don't have anything written into law. But yeah, it's fine to go to like a local park and pick fruit and eat it if you want. It's quite freeing. I
think that's so cool though. It's also weird but cool how no matter the season or the weather, people are always outside. So whether it's minus 20 degrees Celsius, whether it's raining, you'll still see people biking, walking to the store, carrying groceries, walking with their kids to school. Like the weather doesn't stop people here. Then we have the weird...
A little bit in the UK as well. No, the weather does. If it snows in the UK, everything stops. Everything stops. We do not have the infrastructure for snow. Maybe a long time ago we did when it snowed more. But as it's been like quite a few decades since we've had any severe snow weather, when it does snow, the entire country stops, honestly.
But amazing thing called midnight sun here in Finland in the summer, where the days are super bright for a long period of time, sometimes past midnight, even in the south of Finland. And that is amazing, but was very strange when I first came here. It's like, what? It's so bright inside the house, and it is 11 p.m. Then on the flip side, the weird thing is in the winter, there is no sun basically.
So because now it's September now, so the clocks have kind of going the other way. Now I reckon it's what time are you guys? What time is it going dark in Finland? Is it more like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock? I reckon about 7. Let me know in the comment section below.
We have really short days and the sun doesn't rise until like 9 or 10 o'clock and it goes down already around 3. So that was a weird and not so nice thing. Now onto food. Number 15, weird thing about Finland. I have never seen a cheese slicer before I came to Finland. Again, maybe I just, and my family and my friend group and everyone I've ever met has never sliced cheese. But here, they have this thing.
Yeah, because in America, they don't have good cheese. They don't even have cheese. Their cheese is not real cheese. So they don't need a cheese slicer. They have the plastic cheese, burger cheese, and squeezy cheese. But they don't have real European cheese. That's why we don't need to slice the cheese.
Got a juustohöyle, and you slice cheese with it. I mean, it makes sense, but I've always bought pre-sliced cheese. Weird, but cool. Another weird thing is at lunchtime in Finland, there's a lot of great buffets for lunch, but there's no soda often, which in the US, you kind of drink soda often for lunch and dinner, but there's actually milk for lunch, which is quite weird, and there's free refills on that, and free refills for coffee. But soda, not really at lunch, like a fountain, like the fountain drinks. But of course you can buy it in a bottle, but no free refills. Weird.
That's not weird. It's weird to expect a refill. Imagine purchasing a drink and then expecting to be able to have unlimited amount of that drink. It's a very American concept. That doesn't work that way in Europe. Unless, I remember the first time I had a refillable drink, and it was an American chain. I can't remember if it was. I can't remember if it was maybe. It might have been. It was in the cinema. Yeah, the first time I had a refillable drink was in the cinema, and I was like, "Wait, I can go back and get more." It's such an American thing, and now they've brought over a few franchises like Five Guys. And what else is there? Taco Bell, and a few American chains where you can get refillable drinks in the UK. But when I was a kid, refillable drinks in the UK, in Europe, was not a thing. It's an American concept. Yeah, I don't know. Why would you expect to have unlimited amount of a drink when you pay one price? I don't know. The
thing about when you're eating out is that there's not a tipping culture. Weird, but great. I already mentioned the soda refills, but that's also at dinner. So if you get a soda at dinner, it's quite weird that you can't get a refill of that. You have to pay if you want a refill of your soda. Yeah. And I just mentioned this one too, but it needs to be said by itself. There's almost always free coffee refills. So if you go to a cafe,
love that. Free coffee refills. We don't get that in the UK. I love that because I love coffee. I'd prefer free coffee refills over soda refills.
If you go to lunch and you have dessert after, you have free refills of your coffee if it's just from the drip coffee. And weird, but good. And the coffee culture here is so big, so it makes sense why people drink so much coffee, because they can just keep filling up their cups.
Is coffee good in Finland? I must try coffee in Finland. Obviously Sweden, I need to try the fika culture. Denmark, I need to try their pastries. Norway, I'm not too sure yet. Norway, I need to revisit. I quickly, looked at some of Norway's videos and then I clicked off. Do you know another Nordic nation that I've kind of not ignored, but I haven't really looked into? Is Iceland. Iceland. I should probably visit Iceland. No? I think I'm going to have to learn about Iceland as well, guys. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below.
Restaurants over and over again. This should be weird thing number 20. But if not, let's see what number it is here. Now on to just being out and about. The weird things about life in Finland when you're out and about. One thing that's weird is when you're driving. In the US, we're allowed to turn right on a red light. In Finland, you can't turn right on a red light. That's fine. That's okay. But it was weird. when I would ask my husband, why aren't you turning? No one's coming. And he's like, the light is red. So weird, but fine. When you're at grocery stores, you have to weigh the...
We can't turn right on a red light either. We have like I think it's an amber light that has if it's red and the amber light's on that says you can turn. I don't know. I don't drive in the UK, so I don't know.
Produce yourself and put a sticker on it and take it to the cashier when you check out. So that's something that was weird and you need to know of, or else you'll hold up the line at the grocery store if you didn't weigh your produce ahead of time. Also at the grocery store, it is strange that you won't find a lot of still water bottles, like water bottles. You won't find a lot at the store, but you'll find a lot of sparkling water bottles.
Yes, because, just to give you a little secret, in Europe, we tend to have really good water, meaning you could go to the tap, you know, the tap in your house, yeah, the water bill you pay for, and you can drink the water from the tap. I think in a lot of other nations, they don't really realize that actually in Europe, we drink the tap water because our water tends to be pretty good. In the UK, southern water doesn't tend to be very good, but in the north of England and Scotland and Ireland, actually, the water is very nice. I used to drink the tap water from the tap sometimes as a kid, not even with a cup or a glass or whatever, just from the tap when I used to come home from school and I used to be very, very thirsty. Good times, very good times. I used to do that all the time. And yeah, it's just not the same in America, I don't think.
Which makes sense because the water here in Finland is so good that you don't really need to buy a bottle of filtered water.
Exactly.
Just go to the sink and get your own water. Or bring your own bottle when you're traveling and fill it up in sinks. So if you're looking for filtered bottled water at a store or gas station, you might not find it. It's hard to find. On the topic of grocery stores, in the US, you'll often find pharmacies inside the stores or the ability to buy medicine from a store. So if you need ibuprofen or Band-Aids or contact solution, you can get that from a grocery store. But here in Finland, it's weird that you can't get any of that stuff outside of a pharmacy. And oftentimes pharmacies are separate than grocery stores. So if you have a headache, if you need a Band-Aid, if you need contact solution, you can't buy it from a grocery store. You have to go to a pharmacy. So that's a little weird and inconvenient, if I'm honest, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's a bit weird because in the UK you can actually go to a grocery store and get some like Band-Aids, not a lot of things, but a few pharmaceutical things you can get from an actual store. Fine.
Then another weird thing is the monopoly of Alko, which is the alcohol store in Finland. There's only one, which is interesting. And so in the US, there's, a bunch of different types of liquor stores owned by families, owned by other businesses, blah, blah, blah. And you can find them anywhere. And they all have different names and different owners. But here in Finland, there's only one chain for alcohol stores called Alko.
So it's a bit like the system Bloggett. I didn't know you had that system. So Alko is where you get your... I'm going to have to do a video. I don't know how I missed that in Finland you have the same kind of situation as Sweden. Interesting.
And then one thing that is weird and kind of kills me is the fact that there's no drive-through coffee shops.
Yeah, we don't have them either in England, so... Coffee drive-through, why? Can you not get out your car? Can you not walk into a coffee shop? Why would you want to get a coffee drive-through? I mean, I guess if you're on the run, it's a bit of a weird concept, to be honest. But then again, I would have thought Finland, you would have that. That would make sense for Finland. I'm not going to lie. For your country, because you consume so much coffee, number one, and number two, it's freezing in Finland half the year. So I could imagine people don't want to leave their cars and walk, and then it would be very convenient to just drive and get your coffee through the window and you've got a nice warm coffee. However, you guys like the outdoors, so maybe it doesn't matter. But I think it would do well in Finland. I think she's onto something. I think she is onto something. That is a business idea. If any of you guys want to start a business, a coffee drive-through business might do very well in Finland.
In Finland that I found yet, or seen or heard of. So again, it's great for culture and great for, you know, slowing down. But if you want to get a coffee, you kind of have to park your car, go inside the coffee shop, and most likely just enjoy it there. Or of course you can get a to-go cup and get back in your car and drive. But I am missing that convenience of being on the way to work and be like, ooh, I want a latte to go, and just drive through and get it. So weird that there's no drive-through coffee shops in Finland yet. Well, I'm sure I left out some things, and I'm sure I maybe rambled on a few weird things a little too long. But that's the list. A little over 20 weird things about life in Finland. And
I think she's with a Finnish man.
I love it. I love life in Finland. And these weird things are things now that are so special to me and make me so happy to live in Finland. Which one of these weird things do you think is the funniest? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.
Yeah, I think she's married to a Finn because she said she's married to somebody. It doesn't mean then she could be married to an American and they moved over because of his job. I wonder. I don't know. If you guys know and you're subscribed to her, let me know. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you very soon.